Poor little bunny. There you are. This is the first piece I made. Very old now. It wasn't until I'd made the installation of Hiroshima that I actually put my name Eguchi in front of anybody. And I said at that opening night, this is the outing of Edna, because now you can see that I'm half Japanese, and I wouldn't have made this work were it not for my genes. When I lived here as a little girl, I was born in this house. This was my room. It could have been a happy home, but nobody could find him. He was lost. Embassy, bank, no one could find him.
So since then...
He had disappeared. For us as children, disappear was a magic word. Magicians made things disappear. So how had Daddy disappeared? I remember looking behind the curtains and in cupboards. Daddy's disappeared. What does it mean? Didn't understand at all. And my mother had a, child in each hand. And we went round and round London asking various places. And she finally found him in prison. Here's the most precious. The letters, the few letters that were my contact with my father. I'm now 67 years old. My future is sadly limited. The more we write each other, the better we understand. From now on, please write me at the permanent address in Nagoya. There will be a time when you will tell Ian about me, as you will understand me better in the future. My huge regret, though, is not seeing him and not visiting. And when I realised he was so ill and probably dying, and I rang, I hadn't even telephoned Japan, and I thought, why haven't I done this before? And everybody felt that it would be too emotional and traumatic for me to go to a dying father. But how I wish I'd gone. Just to hold his hand, just so he'd know I was with him. It was my huge regret. Huge regret. This diary was a total surprise when it came to me from my father from Japan, and how he saved these frail pages from an English toilet roll Bronco, famous toilet roll, and was able to write with his fine pen 400 words on a sheet of this very thin paper, absolutely amazed me. And that he had managed to conceal it and save it through 6 years of imprisonment in many different camps and in the Isle of Man and 3 years in India, and get it back to Japan and then paste it in this school book and send it to me. I think it was the most remarkable thing. And Steve, here at the Imperial War Museum, Steve, you say it is the most remarkable document?
Absolutely, I'd ever seen, I think, in my professional career.
You've never seen anything like that?
Nothing like that, no.
It really is remarkable.
We have internment diaries, but this is just the story behind it and the context was just quite remarkable and unique.
It's a remarkable document.
Yeah.
So I'm pleased to have given it to the Imperial War Museum for safekeeping, because to me it is an absolute treasure about my father. And to begin with, he records arriving in Pentonville prison and just how awful it was, because he'd been taken away from his home in the night. He had nothing but his clothes he stood up in and his toothbrush. And then when he got there, he wasn't allowed newspapers or contact with anybody, and he refused to see his family. It was very painful. Awful prisoners' food, dirty bath, can you imagine? He spent his time scrubbing the cell and the furniture and being insulted. 10 days there. It was a very, very rough beginning, and it went on like that.
And how it ends?
He found it really difficult as the time went on, because there was no charge, no trial, no explanation. And he knew he'd done nothing. He loved Britain, he loved his family, and he was afraid, because in one of these there's a record of the prisoners banging on the cell, because there is an Indian prisoner who was sentenced to be killed. And so my father was there, heard the prisoner shouting that he was going to die, and all the other prisoners then started banging and banging and banging until the banging ceased, and he knew the man had been killed. But he was, my brother said, he was an Indian patriot. And he said, is this going to happen to me?
Do you think that looks like automaton?
So we enjoy them as works of art, but then, thanks to Edna's research, historical research, we see them in a much, much wider context. We think about the incredible history of the travel, the journey of these works of art. From your grandfather enjoying them in Nagoya, maybe in a new family home, then coming to London as the gesture after the death of your sister, family reconciliation. They really do symbolise an incredible journey that your family has come through. And I just hope that we can find a way, working together, for them to become a symbol of a different kind of reconciliation.
Tim, may I shake your hand on that?
Absolutely. It's been a great pleasure to know you.
And you, Tim, you've always tried to help me. Thank you. At the end of my mother's life, she obviously still so loving towards her husband, the only man in her life, all her life, and she asked if some clothes of his could be sent from Japan. And they sent a parcel, and she cuddled that parcel. I never forget this little old lady, 90. She just said to me, "Darling, these are to be buried with me." That's all. And so, of course, they were. And I put flowers with her coffin, and my daughters gave things. We put in the grave, but my father's clothes she had asked for. I thought that was a very significant request at the very end of her life. He had drawn 2 portraits, one of our Queen and the other of my mother. These were the 2 women I think he really admired all his life. Our Queen and my mother. I was very moved at their relationship, their loving relationship. Despite years of separation, years of hardship, that love existed within her so strongly. It was wonderful to see. Wonderful. The roads aren't built for those horrible great things. It's crazy.